Hi there. For this section, I am going to talk about what the volunteer opportunities are for Pierce County. They are a little different than Kitsap County, so there's a separate video that is made for this purpose. Um, Let me start off by talking about the different ways you can volunteer in youth programs. We also have capacities to volunteer in community development as well as in behind the scenes kind of miscellaneous volunteer roles. For youth programs, we have four youth programs. The first one is called Youth Engagement, and it is within this umbrella that we work on identifying, connecting, and engaging youth into the services that we have at Coffee Oasis. We do this through effective school outreach and street outreach and our drop-in centers. So I'll break down the two roles that exist under youth engagement where you can volunteer in. So the first one is street outreach. So street outreach volunteers go with a street outreach worker into the public schools, to skate parks, to regular parks, just on the street, really to find youth that fit our demographic and to invite them into our programs, to give them resources that they might need and really try to meet their needs right then and there to a degree that will then bring them into the rest of the services we have available that can help meet their needs even further. We do this by developing relationships with them, meeting their needs in the moment, and then again, just inviting them to come to one of our drop-in centers or to our shelter if they need it. So requirements to volunteer in street outreach are if you're comfortable approaching youth and building new friendships, if you're able to pass a school background check, personality traits that are helpful for this role, or if you enjoy meeting new people, if you enjoy walking and spending time outdoors, particularly for the street outreach portion, and if you are good at helping others set attainable goals, which would be for the school outreach portion. We have historically been invited into different schools in our counties to perhaps a study hall period that we're allowed to take over and use to talk about life skills and different other topics that are relevant to youth that struggle with homelessness or that are at risk for homelessness. These students that come are typically students that the school counselors and teachers have identified as high risk for homelessness or at-risk behavior. So it's a really cool way that we can meet youth in the school setting. So for street outreach, the time commitment for this, we are looking for 4 hours a month. The hours when street outreach occurs is typically Monday through Friday from 12 to 4 p.m. The second program that falls under youth engagement is the drop-in centers. In Tacoma, we call it the port. So in the center, center volunteers can really just build relationships with youth by playing games, engaging in conversation, and helping them think about their future. We'd like to think about the drop-in center just really as like a safe hangout place for the youth to spend time, to take a shower, do laundry, get snacks, use our Wi-Fi, and just have a place to hang out and be. As a volunteer, creating a homey space is kind of the ultimate goal, building relationships. And really, sometimes it looks like a youth comes in and plops down on the couch and asking them, "So how was school? How did that conversation with your best friend that you mentioned last week, how did that go?" So in the drop-in center, it's a relaxed environment where you can play games, build relationships, and all of that. So requirements for this role in the drop-in center, the port. If you are comfortable approaching youth and building new friendships, if you have a good reputation as a role model to younger youth and adults, and if you're able to pass a background check. Personality traits, if you are comfortable in crowds. So if you are an introvert, this may not be your cup of tea. If you enjoy making people feel at home and like they're a part of a family. And if you enjoy facilitating group activities, and if you're able to work in a team setting. being in the drop-in center typically involves lots of other volunteers and staff members, and so it's pretty important to have a clear system on how you all work together. Some people might be overseeing the clothing closet. Some people might be overseeing getting stuff for kids from the kitchen. Someone might be overseeing the pool table. So being able to work as part of a team is also very helpful. Two components to the drop-in center that might get your thoughts going would be life skill classes and celebration team. So life skill classes is really the idea of if you have a skill or a passion that you would like to teach or share, we would love to have that. Maybe you are really gifted in financial literacy. Maybe you have a history of being a mechanic. Maybe you have a background in the mental health field. Maybe you enjoy cooking, the arts, whatever it is. Sharing a life skill class is really a 20-minute presentation in the drop-in centers where you just share what you know. We've had individuals come in and give a 20-minute presentation on here's how to budget well. Here's how to cook an easy meal. Here's how to change the oil in a car. So if you have a skill or a passion that you think would be relevant, that would be a way to share it. The second thing I mentioned was celebration team. So the celebration team is a group of volunteers that really want to help support the Coffee Oasis staff as we celebrate holidays, youth birthdays, graduations, and other accomplishments that our youth make. This team communicates mostly by email and has occasional in-person meetings, but this would be a lovely way if you want to be involved, but maybe can't commit to a weekly or every other week of coming into the center. So we've covered street outreach, we've covered the drop-in center, also known as the port. Now we're going to talk about the second youth program, which is youth development. So we've talked about youth engagement, street outreach and drop-in center fall underneath that. Now we're going to talk about youth development. So this is kind of the next step for youth a lot of the time. This is all about allowing and establishing youth-led goals through case management, mentoring, and job training that allow the youth and young adults to really thrive in life and become a little bit more self-sustaining. So mentoring, to be a mentor is a really, really important role. Mentors and tutors, so think too, if you are good at a particular subject. We sometimes have youth that ask for help with math homework or that struggle with writing a paper. So mentors and tutors, they're a really positive influence in the lives of the youth that are enrolled in weekly case management. Mentors and tutors, they can be really good listeners, helping guide youth to make healthy life decisions. I like to explain mentorship really kind of like co-parenting. So most of the kids that have a mentor within Coffee Oasis, they have a case manager, and the case manager is looking at the picture in regards to I need to get this youth a birth certificate, and we need to get them new shoes, and we need to write up a resume, and we need to do interview practice questions, and we need to get that social security card and get them signed up for food stamps. So they're thinking very methodically, practically. And sometimes what happens, as having been a case manager myself, a youth might come in to their case management setting and just be so full to the brim with the latest drama or gossip, or they had a fight with their mom, or their girlfriend broke up with them, or something like that. And so they'll come in needing to process, and they will, because the case manager sometimes is the only safe adult that they've seen that week. And so they come in and they process and vent. But then unfortunately, what that means is that case manager now only has about 20 minutes to do all those really practical things. So a mentor gets to kind of step in and provide that relational need for the youth by being a listener, not necessarily even giving advice, but just hearing the youth. So if you're interested in more one-on-one work, if you are organized, mature, if you're a good listener, if you're patient, if you're persistent, because our youth sometimes struggle with the concept of making an appointment and keeping that appointment. If you have good verbal and written communication skills, that's also helpful. This would be a great role for you. So requirements for this are if you are in a stable place in life and you can maintain healthy boundaries, completing a mentor training that you would be given by one of the staff members here after you've gone through the volunteer process, and that you must first volunteer in the drop-in center for 3 months before you can be a mentor. And I want to make sure I clarify as well for the drop-in center, the time commitment we're looking for with the drop-in center is 4 hours a month. And the drop-in center, Monday through Friday, we typically have broken up the shifts to be anytime 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and, or 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. So kind of in that kind of time range. And that can be made flexible to pay based on your availability as well. But so for mentoring, the time commitment would be around 1 to 2 hours a week for at least 6 months, because it takes time to build a relationship. Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, just typically when we are sure that we have staff that are available in case some conversations should arise that you need support in. So the next would be our housing. So we call our housing services here in Tacoma the loft. So despite the growing number of youth that are experiencing homelessness in Washington, there's very, very few housing options for them. And it's very sad, but we're very, very grateful that we get to be a provision in that area. So housing volunteers get to help by providing a self-welcome home presence for the youth when they come back to the loft. This shelter is open 24 hours a day. Requirements for this role as a volunteer with our housing is if you can pass a Washington State Patrol background check and a DCYF background check and be over 21 years old. Given that our shelter is licensed, we have to make sure that all of the background check steps have been completed. There is a necessary completion of an additional 24 hours of training that we would provide for you to do. Personality traits for helping in the loft would be if you enjoy making youth feel at home, if you appreciate a more structured setting because it is a state licensed shelter, if you're good at listening and providing stability and just consistency. The number one thing here for youth is that they really just need a consistent presence of a staff member. Time commitment for volunteering in the loft is going to be a minimum of 6 hours a month, and the hours of this can be very flexible. You can do this in 2-hour increments, 3-hour increments, 4-hour increments, anywhere from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m., whatever works for your schedule. So those are the youth program specific ways to volunteer. I want to spend some time now talking about other ways and other opportunities that might be of interest to you. So other opportunities might look like things such as facilities, groundskeeping, housekeeping, administrative work. So if you are someone who prefers kind of a behind the scenes way of being involved, especially if you have a really good skill set, if you have a history of being an electrician or a mechanic, or you're really good with IT stuff, all of those things are really, really helpful to us. If you love organizing, if you like answering phones, all of those skills can be really, really valued at our offices because they're all needs that we have. And typically it is staff members that are trying to manage all of those things. And so if you, as a volunteer, have a skill set that you would like to share with us, we would love that as well. There's also the option of volunteering at special events. So this kind of goes along with celebration team for the drop-in center, but special events would be, we have the holidays where we have big special events that come up where we need support with Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Halloween. Volunteering with our special events is a really beautiful way to help us out. For example, we have a way that we celebrate Halloween time with them, Thanksgiving, Christmas, back to school. And so we really need volunteers that are available, sometimes just to help with special events. And that might mean setting up and tearing down, serving a meal, decorating, wrapping Christmas presents. So if you want to have your toes kind of in the water of helping out with youth programs, but you're not able to commit time-wise to a weekly or every other week or even once a month capacity, helping out in the special events world would also be incredibly helpful. Additionally, if you have a phone, we need help with having photographs taken. So you do not have to have a fancy camera in order to help us with photography and videography. So we have one individual who is our main staff member that does the photography and videography for all of our locations. And so it would be massively helpful if you are somebody that can take relatively good pictures, or at the very least, take good instruction on how to take pictures and how to take videos. And we like to use this for when we are trying to share with the community, hey, this is what we do. Or hey, let's show the youth some of the pictures that we took from the Thanksgiving dinner that we had together. And so that's another way to help out in the special events arena, is to show up, and your job being to take pictures and to take videos and all of that. So requirements for these other opportunities I've discussed are: if you are specialized in a technical, mechanical, or practical skill set, if you thrive in a project-focused environment that's much more task-oriented rather than people-oriented, and personality traits, if you're more of a hands-on person, more behind the scenes. And then time commitment for this is really as needed and or as available. Another way within the kind of other opportunities behind the scenes world for volunteering would be by donating resources and groceries. So I'm going to list a few descriptors of what this sounds like. So we have a resident meal once a week. We host a family style dinner for the youth residents that are at our shelter. And so if you would please consider providing a meal to our housing, the loft, or offering a monetary donation to fund the meal, that's a really lovely way to participate as well. Due to licensing regulations, all the food has to come from a commercially prepared kitchen. Groceries. Please consider donating basic foods like milk, butter, eggs, bread, juice to the shelter. We also really appreciate snack foods, so single bags of chips or granola bars or power bars or fruit snacks. We make the youth lunches every day, and so the single snack sizes go really, really easily into lunch bags. As far as clothes, which we're asked a lot about, right now we don't actually have capacity to accept clothes or shoe donations. So please, by all means, find another local nonprofit or agency that can take those donations. We do have an Amazon list of needs that we need for the loft or for the port, and you are welcome to reach out to me for the specific link if you are curious about looking at that Amazon wish list and seeing if there's something on there you'd like to purchase for that. I'm going to talk about a couple or a few other community development or administrative roles that you can volunteer in. So the first community development role would be as a community advocate. So our community development team does a fabulous job of going to churches, going to civic clubs, talking to the community, and really sharing about who we are as an organization, sharing about the youth that we serve. And it's a combination of them encouraging people to help financially support us, but also with time. And so many of you who are maybe watching this, you heard about us through somebody coming to your church or coming to your club or coming to your community event and talking about the Coffee Oasis. And that's what spiked your interest to be here now. So community advocates are really advocates for homeless and at-risk youth, raising awareness about Coffee Oasis on our mission, our youth programs, the impact, and doing this with a community development worker alongside you. So this, practically speaking, looks like you would go with a community development worker to a church where maybe they're speaking, and being there at the maybe the table out in the lobby and answering questions that somebody might have, or people might come up to you afterwards and say, okay, so how do I get involved? And you get to be another point person so that it's not just the one Coffeo staff member fielding all the questions. You get to be another voice to go, oh, you would go onto the website, or you would contact this person, or let me take your name and phone number. So that is a way, if you are somebody who, can agree to follow the organization guidelines, there would be a community development training. We wouldn't just say, okay, here you go, throw you to the wolves. There would be a training specific to how to communicate and answer questions, and what questions to even field. Personality traits for this role look like if you're personable, if you're social. So again, if you're a hardcore introvert, this may not be your forte, but you never know. First time for everything. If you're organized, if you're mature, if you're professional, and if you have good verbal and written communication skills. The time commitment as a community advocate is really as needed. We would put your name on a list, and when our community development team is going to go out somewhere, you'd be contacted to see, hey, are you available on this day near in the future? We'd love to have the support by setting up or tearing down, or overseeing a booth, or writing down names and contact information and so forth. The last two ways to volunteer, one is as a facility volunteer, and the other is as an administrative office volunteer. So I'm just kind of going to go over a little bit more of the specifics. They fall under the other opportunities behind the scenes work, but I just want to explain a little bit more. So a facilities volunteer is really somebody, if you are good with repair and landscaping work, if you can assess exterior and interior repair needs, if you enjoy being more hands-on and working on projects, if you're a technician, anything in that world, we would love to have you volunteer with us. We have 3 locations in Kitsap County, and we have a location in Tacoma, and things are breaking on and off, just like any other house would have repairs that are needed. And so having people that are skilled in this area really helps us, so that we don't have to hire somebody that would cost maybe more than what we can financially do at the moment. So volunteer hours for this would be, approximately 2 hours a week, depending on what's needed. Sometimes there's big projects that are going on. Maybe we need to repair a porch, or replace windows, or there's some electrical issue, or we're trying to even get an idea of what a remodel would look like. So as a facilities volunteer, your skill set, you could just say, hey, this is what I am comfortable with. And we would certainly take that, but never put you in a position to fix something that you don't feel comfortable fixing. So this, again, this is a really great way to volunteer behind the scenes. The last one is as an administrative office assistant, or just office administrator. So if you enjoy connecting with people, assisting people in an open office setting, this would be lovely. This looks like welcoming guests and providing them with initial support. So we have people that randomly walk into our various buildings with questions, or questions about donations, questions about how to get involved, questions on where the closest cafe is, questions on how they can support the youth. And so you being kind of the initial face for that would be really helpful. We also need someone to help manage the phones and emails, maintain some office organization and cleanliness, and other tasks kind of as needed. We're looking for, 4 to 8 hours a week, whatever you can provide. We would like for it to be consistent. So if you say I could do 3 hours on a Tuesday afternoon, we go, great. If we can create some kind of rhythm, then it helps us know what remaining time during the week do the staff members need to cover all those things. So this is also, again, just another lovely way to volunteer in a way that's incredibly impactful to us, but maybe doesn't go directly into direct youth contact if that's not something you're wanting to do at this time. So that is all the youth program, community development, miscellaneous volunteer ways to support. The last thing I'll say is you yourself, or if you know of anyone, meal providing is really helpful. Dropping off a meal at the port, at our drop-in center doesn't require background check, doesn't require you to go through the volunteer process. Everything else I've talked about does require you to apply online, do a background check, and watch or attend an orientation training. To drop off a meal does not require you to go through that process at all. And so maybe you are thinking ahead and going, oh, it'd be really great for my family, or, and I have young kids, or my church, or this club I'm a part of to be involved in some capacity. Um, Coming together and providing a meal, on, I don't know, the third Friday of every month, or we're going to provide lunch on Wednesday afternoons. Doing that together and then dropping it off doesn't require you to have to be involved. Now, if the desire is to stay at the port or at the loft and serve the meal or stick around, that's where you do have to go through the volunteer process. But if you're just wanting to literally drive by, drop off stuff, and then keep going, that's perfectly fine. So that is all what I have for you in regards to volunteer opportunities. Please ask any more questions that you might have via email. I'm going to allow you to get back to the rest of the training where you will talk about the volunteer process, street culture, diversity, and trauma-informed care, as well as human trafficking and so forth.